All right, the president, we are told, is on the verge of making good on a threat to slap additional tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods. So those talks, or lack thereof, don't appear to be advancing along. But the president, as you know, has had a consistent preference for one-on-one trade deals. He went that way with Mexico to get a Mexican agreement going, with the European Commission to get at least commitments on the part of the Europeans to buy more agricultural goods. And now, with Her Majesty's Kingdom, Great Britain. And who knows that better than European Parliament member, a favorite of this show, and of viewers, apparently, Daniel Hannan. Good to see you, Daniel.
Hey, Neil, how are you?
I'm very good. Now, this deal that's coming together, explain what it's about.
Well, both sides are committed to having a deal. And it makes sense, right?
U.S. and Britain.
The two governments want it, and, you know, we speak the same language. You are already our single biggest investor. We are your single biggest investor. There are 1 million Brits out there who clock in every day to work for an American company. There are 1 million Americans who work for a British company every day, right? So it's a natural fit. We haven't been able to do the trade deal up until now, because we're in the European Union. So now the door is open. And the question is, how do we maximize the opportunity? How do we get a trade deal that works for the little guy, that isn't just for the corporates and the multinationals, that delivers lower prices, more competition, and more choice for consumers? And the basic idea that I'm pushing, I'm launching tomorrow a proposal that 10 think tanks have been working on both sides of the Atlantic, including all the big...
Are they regular think tanks or crazy?
The guys here are, you know, it right. Manhattan, Heritage, Cato, AEI...
Fair balanced think tank consortium.
Fair, and, you know, the first time, as far as anyone knows, that they've all collaborated on the same project, which is great. And
what's the appeal here?
Well, it's the ability significantly to expand our economies without really any cost to the governments. And the idea is that we would simply say, whatever is legal in your country is automatically legal in ours, and vice versa, and that this should apply to services, to professional qualifications. Right? I mean, if a drug is approved by the FDA, that should be good enough. We don't need to second-guess it. If a guy is qualified to work as a trader in London, he should be able to practice on Wall Street, and vice versa. And if you did that, instead of having the common standards, which was the Obama way of doing it, and the common rules on environmental standards.
Because I remember when he threatened before the Brexit vote, you know, it'd be a pity if something happened that went against your interests.
Yeah, I mean, it is very striking that the president, when he talks about a trade deal with the UK, obviously being President Trump, he uses his habitual superlatives, right? It's not just going to be any old trade deal, it's going to be an incredible, beautiful trade. You know what? It really could be. All of those superlatives could actually be justified if we did a deal that simply went for complete mutual recognition instead of common standards.
What does that mean? I'm sorry for ignorance here, but does it mean that all tariffs, all charges go away as well?
Yep.
Britain takes it away, we take it away, we take it away, Britain takes it away. How does that work?
Yeah, remove all tariffs. I mean, President Trump at the G7 summit in Quebec said, to the astonishment of his fellow leaders, why don't we just scrap all tariffs, all trade barriers? OK, you know what? Let's take him seriously and literally. Let's, at least with an advanced country with a similar level of wages, where none of the issues about offshoring and so on arise, why don't we try and do that? And if we can make this work between the UK and the United States, let's bring in other like-minded countries, other English-speaking common law countries. Let's make a different kind of trade nexus.
Do you folks have trade deals in the works with any other individual country? I mean, the idea that once Brexit is official and goes through and Britain has to leave the fold, so to speak, you're going to be abandoned. You're going to be in the economic woods. What's the real deal with that, this deal notwithstanding?
While we're in the EU, we are not allowed even to negotiate formally a trade deal because we're in a customs union with somebody else. We have been scoping the trade deals that we can do. International law is fuzzy about where...
I always thought that was an American expression.
Well, OK, so maybe it is. Maybe that gets us over the legal ambiguity. Right. But we're discussing the broad terms. Look, the obvious places for us to start with trade deals are the countries that are, if you like, interoperable, which is obviously our friends and cousins here, and then Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Hong Kong. The places that are common law, that have the same accountancy methods, the same kind of professional credentials. Israel, I would put also in that category. I mean, it's a common law country.
Is there an understanding, then, that this becomes like a blueprint going forward for other deals if England were to pursue this on a country-by-country basis?
I hope so.
Yeah.
You see, what we've tended to do up until now, what the world has tended to do, is to sit down and negotiate these very complicated and slightly corporatist deals that say, if you want to sell me something, it has to meet all of these standards. And what happens is that the big corporates on both sides of that deal try and maximize the difficulty of conforming with the standards so that no new entrant can come and compete against them. And that was happening with the TTIP deal, which the previous administration was discussing with Europe. There are elements of it in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I would say let's get away from all of that and just go for basic reciprocity. You know, we trust you. I mean, so there's a row in Britain at the moment about US beef. Your delicious beef involves hormones, right, which are banned in Europe. The reason they're banned in Europe, pure protectionism. There was a glut of beef in the 90s, and they came out with this completely unscientific ban based on excluding basically every other country that uses these growth hormones. Now, I would say, look, the US is an obviously functioning country. People eat a lot of beef there. If there was something wrong with it, we'd know about it.
Some of them are glowing at night. They don't know why.
But I tell you what, if it were poisoning Americans, I think we would know about it. So we would just say, no one's going to force you to eat this, right? But let's not forbid you to eat it either. And that would be my approach.
I'm sorry, my friend. Your quick thought was a little over 2 years ago, you had the big Brexit vote. And a lot of people in the interim with the waves of this whole thing, it said they wanted a do-over. They wanted a mulligan on this. I mean, is that view still out there that a lot of Brits are concerned? I know in Scotland that was a concern. What do you think? Any regrets or full throttle? Go for it.
I mean, the opinion polls show almost no shift in public opinion.
Okay.
I mean, the opinion polls, even before the vote, showed a majority the other way, and they turned out to be wrong.
You're right.
But, you know, I do think it was a narrow result. It was 48-52. And in the end, the deal that we get is going to have to reflect that. It's going to have to reflect the fact that Scotland and Northern Ireland, two of the four constituent parts of the country, voted to stay. And that means we're going to have to treat it as, not as a mandate to walk away completely, but as a mandate for phased recovery.
Whatever you guys do, they have to go along with it, right?
But I don't think you can interpret a 48-52 result as a vote to sever all of your ties, right? Our geography and our history leave us in a slightly different position, and we want to have good relations with our European allies, right? I mean, we like them, they're our friends. Plus, we want to have rich neighbours, right? Because rich neighbours make good customers.
French, though, right?
I mean, the current French government is being probably the most difficult in these talks because they are kind of affronted by the whole thing. But yeah, we've had, as you have, we've had our difficulties with the French over the years, but we still basically regard them as on the side of democracy when the chips are down, right? All
right, thank you very much. Daniel Hannan speaks his mind, legendary with the criticism he had back and forth over the leadership in Britain years ago. I think you were 12 years old at the time.
Yeah.
Look at you now.
I'm only 18 now.